Thank you, Simon, for the invite. So yes, my name is Gabriel. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Properati, and now since last year I also working at OLX Group, so now in charge of real estate market in Latin America. So let's start. So the idea is to talk about AI. I think many people talk about AI during this interesting event, but the idea was to show a specific use case of AI in real estate. So I think perhaps, so the idea is to go very quickly into what is Properati, OLX Group, then basic stuff about AI, then AI at OLX, some examples, and then AI at Properati and the takeaways for all of you. So almost 1 year ago, in a different hotel, but the same place, we announced a deal. It was very interesting for us because after 10 years of doing things in classifieds and founded 2 companies, we sold the company to OLX Group, and it was an interesting milestone for us. And basically now we are part of this big company and we are the new kids on the block. So you see that OLX Group has like 20 companies, and each of these companies basically is working on a different scale in a different market. There are horizontals, verticals, and then convenient transactions, which is basically companies that are trying to make more convenient. For example, in India, you can go and sell your car for cash in one of the 50 shops that are located across the country. And Properati now it's trying to make real estate great again in Latin America for OLX. Because basically what happened with the horizontals is that you have so many categories that you cannot provide a great value to the customer, specifically if he or she is looking to buy a house. So if you're looking for rentals or something like that, perhaps the experience that you have and the liquidity that you have on the horizontal, it's quite good. But then if you need to find a house and it's a decision that you make every 10 years, you will have to go to a vertical search place to find it and provide tools, for example, the valuation price that we're going to talk later. So in the last year, basically I have traveled a lot. We launched 3 countries, Peru, Colombia, and Ecuador. To be honest with you, I have never been in those 3 countries because I was traveling to Brazil, Mexico, and Chile. So the first challenge that we had was to open Properati in 3 countries. Of course, OLX already had offices there, so we work with the country managers, so we scale the business very quickly. And basically, one thing that we did was to define our mission very clearly. And I think this is very important because I think if you look at the mission statement of one company, you will realize if this company is doing a great job or not. If the mission is too broad, you don't know exactly what they're doing. So basically, we want to define our mission, and we want to empower our buyers through technology to find a house, and also to help the sellers achieve a more efficient sales process, because this will allow also the buyers to find the house in a better process. And this is very important because I was hearing that people are talking about iBuyers, but nobody's talking about iSellers. And I think both parts are very important for a transaction. So as we are part of OLX, one of the things we have done to launch the company in 3 markets was to do a TV commercial. So let me show you 40 seconds.
El mundo de antes no es igual al de hoy. Antes primero te casabas y después te mudabas. Hoy te mudas y después ves si te casas. Antes estaba la familia tipo. Hoy hay familias de todo tipo. Hasta puede ser un tipo con su perro. Las mujeres se quedaban en la casa. Hoy estamos en todos lados. Antes en cada casa había un teléfono. Ahora en un teléfono hay miles de casas. Hoy existe un buscador de propiedades donde puedes conocer sitios cercanos, valor por metro cuadrado y filtrar por palabras clave para elegir la que más te conviene. Hay nuevas maneras de vivir y una de encontrar dónde. Properati, el mejor camino a tu próximo hogar.
Okay, I hope you like it. For me, it was like 1 year ago, impossible to think to be on TV. But if you go to Peru, Colombia, or Ecuador, you will see Properati in many places. And for us, was also an entrepreneur's very interesting milestone. to do this commercial. We have a competition with 5 creative agencies in Buenos Aires, 3 production companies to get lower cost, and 3 media agencies. So I think the process was very interesting and was a challenge, but also very interesting for us. So now let's talk about AI. The most important part of this presentation is the following slide, so you have to pay attention. So basically, the big difference between machine learning and AI, it is that if it is writing in Python, it's probably machine learning. But if it's not, it's in PowerPoint, it's AI. So the next slides, I will talk about AI and not about machine learning. Okay? That's the most important slide of the presentation. So basically, what are the challenges for all tech companies regarding AI? So I think there are 3 big challenges for all of us. The first one, of course, is data scale. The second one that people perhaps don't think about is the scale in infrastructure and engineering capacity that you will have to put in place to process all this data. And the third, and I think most important one, is the ability to apply AI to solve specific customer problems. It's not just technology because it's cool, it's technology because it solves specific customer problems. And back to the mission, we want to help users to find a house, so we want to provide tools that will solve this problem to find a house. So there are some advantages for the big players, the tech giants, because AI looks exactly tailor-made for them, because they have moved very quickly into AI. They have hired the best talent in town for AI. And most important, they have the data, the talent, the infrastructure, and even their own dedicated chips. They are working in hardware to create more efficient products to have an advantage in AI. So if you remember Warren Buffett, he has this idea of creating a monopoly. And when you think about a monopoly, you think about a castle. And the castle, you have tall walls, you have a moat. And now I think with the AI, the giants also have these crocodiles trying to get you out of their business. So I think this is what it looks like. But on the other side, I think there's an opportunity for all of us because we can integrate AI tightly into our business, and we can basically work on solutions that giants cannot do because we can go deeper into the transaction and solve specific problems. So if you think about our price valuator tool, which is something that I'm going to talk about, I don't think that Facebook, Google, or Amazon are thinking about how you evaluate a house in Ecuador, in Peru, in Colombia, or emerging markets, because it's a very specific problem, and we as Properati or OLX Group, we are trying to solve that specific problem using AI. And I think that's a big advantage for us and probably for all of you. So let me talk briefly about AI at OLX Group. You can access to our blog, which is tech.olx.com. Sorry, tech.olx.com. And you will see like 10 different articles explaining all the initiatives that our OLX Group is doing regarding machine learning, of course, or AI. And this one is the first one, and I think it's very relevant to all of us, because if you have a website and you have search results, you can be Yandex, you can be Properati, you can be Mitula, but you have to rank those ads in some way. And I think machine learning, it's a great way to solve that problem, because you need to find, computers will rank better the results than humans. With machine learning, you can do it even more efficiently. So if you want to check the blog, there's a huge article explaining how OLX Group is doing this, and it's open to the public, and you will perhaps learn something about it. And then there is a second article that I think it's very interesting. I think yesterday there was a startup talking about this. So OLX has this problem because the images in cars are something that you need to solve. Otherwise, the cars are in the same image and all the problems that we talked about yesterday. So there are 2 articles explaining how you can improve the images quality for cars specifically. And you can access that information and perhaps learn something. Okay, so now let's go to AI at Properati. So the idea was, the question is, can AI help us answer this question specifically in LATAM where there's no data? So the question is, what's your house really worth? So if you want to buy a house, sell a house, this is a very important question, okay? What's the price? So let's look at Properati today. This is a screenshot from Properati in Bogota. You will see that we have listings. For us, the listings, we basically save every listing in the last couple of years, so we have a lot of data sets regarding listings. We have the statistics of that neighborhood, so you can see very quickly the price per square meter, also historical graph of how is the price per square meter moving in the last 12 months. And also you can see price valuator tool, and if you click here, basically you can have a broad idea of how much your house is worth. So before going there, let me show you the behind the scenes of how we try to solve this problem. So basically, imagine you have a data set of properties. So this is a property, this is the price, and then you have all these variables that are called attributes that will try to explain the price, okay? So this is a very simple problem. You have a set of attributes, and with that set of data, you want to have a model that tries to basically target the actual price. When I'm talking about price, it's the price that is on the listing. It's the offer price. It's not the transaction price, but it's the information that we have in Latin America. We don't have here MLS. Sorry, we don't have in Latin America MLS, so we need to work with what we have. So what's the most simple way to solve this problem? You go to a realtor, he asks or she asks how many square meters the property has. You tell 100 meters. Okay, what's the price per square meter in that neighborhood? Let's say $1,000. So you multiply those numbers and you have the evaluation, 100,000. That's the value of the property. So this is the most simple way to solve this problem, but the problem with this is not good enough, okay? Because you can have two properties in the same street and it's not the same price per square meter. So if you think about a linear regression, which is the most simple way to think about this problem, this is a technology that was invented 100 years ago. It's still used. It's simple and it works. The problem with this is that you are taking one variable and it's not optimal for solving this problem. So what if we take several variables, okay? It's not just the surface, but also the number of rooms, the location, and all the data that you can put together. So if you think about this, you can solve this with an Microsoft Excel. You don't need to be a PhD. But the problem with this is that you are not minimizing the loss function between your forecast of the price and the price. And you can have a better, you can minimize that loss function if you use machine learning. And basically, I want to show you that this is very similar as a linear regression. You have multiple variables, and those variables combine into a neuron. And that combined with several neurons, you can have a model which is better to predict the price. So let me show you very briefly how it works. Okay, so this is basically a representation of a number of inputs, let's say total surface, number of rooms, location. So each column that you see here is called a layer, okay? And each unit within a layer do not connect. So this unit is not connected with this unit, but this unit is connected with the next one in the following layer. So in this way, you create a lot of connections between the variables, and basically this information moves forward, okay? So at the end of the day, you combine all the inputs and you have a model to determine the price. So if you do it several ways, each connection is weighted, so this model has more parameters than the one that I showed you before. And it's very simple. It looks like a linear regression, but it's more complicated. So basically, you start connecting all the dots. So this is another linear regression. And you put everything together, and you have a neural network, which is several neurons connected to each other. And this is very simple to look at it, and it's just variables multiplied with a weight. and you sum, and then you go to the next layer, and you sum, and you move to the next layer. And at the end of the day, you have a better model to predict the price. So what is the takeaways of a neural network? The most important part here, I think, is that if you add more parameters, you get more power. You have more power to capture the underlying patterns in the data. Just to say in plain English, if you have, let's say, a number of parameters, and you will not see the relationship between the number of rooms and the number of square meters. Perhaps there is a clear relationship into those variables, but perhaps there are 100 variables, and in your mind, you will not connect those variables as this kind of model will connect them. So if you add more variables into the model and you put everything together, as I showed you before, you will find a model that will be even better than the model that you can do using Microsoft Excel. So basically, this is how our price evaluator tool looks like. If you go to Properati in Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, of course, Argentina, you will see that, and if you click on the link that I showed you before, this is how it looks. So basically here, before this, you put the address, and after you put the address, we ask you a couple of questions. Of course, if you complete more of this, we can have a better model because we have more inputs. We put everything together and we estimate the price, okay? This is in Colombian pesos, and this is the price that we estimate, okay? So just to give you an idea, we were the first one to launch this in Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador, where 100 million people live there, and there was not a tool available and for free to people to know how much worth their house is, to sell or to rent. Because if you're renting, you want to renegotiate and you want to know the new price, you can use this tool. If you want to you buy a new property, and then when the property is ready, you want to rent it, of course, you can put an address with a property that is not even on the market yet, and you calculate if this investment is worth or not. So basically, what are the takeaways? I think there are several, but for me, the most important ones are the following. So AI or machine learning is just math, doing millions of times, but it's just that. You need to have data that is labeled, so what you get out is only as good as the labeled data you put in. So if you don't have good data and the data is not labeled, you have nothing. So data quantity, of course, is an advantage, so you need to have a lot of data. And basically, machines are not intelligent. They don't have real understanding yet, okay? So don't think about science fiction. Of course, there are people doing very interesting stuff, but so far, you need to have a model, define the problem, have data, label that data, put everything together, and you will have some machine learning algorithm that will work very well. But you have to think about it as a problem that you want to solve for your customers. So that's why I started with the mission. So what's your mission of your company? Solve the problem for example, for finding a house. Valuating a house is very important. So that's why we did this. So thanks a lot. And if you have any questions.
Of course there are questions. There are always questions. We wrap. Slido, thank you very much. Okay, always fascinating. I love what you guys are doing there. Okay, what's the, what have we got the first time there? How do you ensure data consistency? Can we make sure it goes back, Bruce? Okay, can we make sure we've got data consistency? Your inputs are human generated, so are prone to subjectivity, whether it includes the terrace and the surface and so on. How do you approach that?
Yeah, so basically we are working with an initiative called Properati Data in the last 6 years before doing AI, etc. So we were working with data the last 6 years, and basically we filter the data that is not reliable. But yes, it's a problem, and we need to work on that. So we have our own systems to try to distinguish the real data from, let's say, the spam and the scams of the real estate world. but it's a challenge that you need to solve.
But it's a journey, really, because you're doing a number of things, including educating the market on how to do this properly. And they'll eventually realize that I put crap in, I get crap out, and it helps no one, and that it's about benefiting the whole. So let's hope that the world moves in that direction. Okay, are there plans to expand Properati outside of LATAM?
I cannot tell you, but perhaps yes.
Perhaps yes. What are the offer of monetization of new developments? How do you do that?
Sorry, which was?
The first one. What's the offer, or how do you monetize new developments?
So basically the offer to the construction company is quite simple. Give us your properties, your stock. We're going to help you to sell that building, and we're going to charge you per lead, okay? So we go see the construction companies, ask for the inventory. We are not charging to put everything online. We are just charging per performance. So basically when you receive a lead, and it's a high quality lead, then we can discuss what is a high quality lead, but we charge on that.
Okay. How much has AI improved price discovery or reduced the loss function for Properati?
So basically, we are using AI at the moment for specific things. So far, we are working on the evaluation tool, which is something that we launched a couple of months ago, and now we're start working with the team. We have a specific team for that, and it's trying to also work to have a best relevance in search results, for images, for any more topics. But the idea was to focus first on the price evaluator tool, because it was also a very marketing tool that we can say, hey, we have this, come to see it in Properati, and we attract traffic.
Okay. Now, I think the first question is actually a really good question. What steps would you take to get off the ground when you have, sort of starting from zero? What are the 2 or 3 things that you would do first?
So basically, you need data. So if you have to find some data, and if you don't have it, you have to ask for someone to help you with that. So for example, you can use the data from a competitor, you can use the data from, I don't know, doing a survey yourself, from Google. So you need data, because without the data, this model will not work.
Okay. Have you figured out best practice of data age to be used to price the best results?
Yeah, so basically, one part that is not very nice about this machine learning model is that at the end of the day, it's a black box, okay? So once you have the model, you put all the data in, you set the parameters, and you have the result, but it's not very clear, all the intermediate layers that you generate with this. So it's not easy sometimes to see exactly what is happening inside, but at the end of the day, you can have a better model, because this model will be estimated better the price. So it's some kind of problem that is a black box inside, but it is what it is.
Okay. I think this one at the bottom is actually quite a good question. If you think, if it's the questions around, it looks like AI is more of a problem than a solution, because a buyer wants to spend a certain amount of money, a seller wants to sell for a certain price, and the AI may put something in between, or maybe to one end or the other. How do you mitigate this, or how do you use this to your advantage?
Okay, so I was telling before, in Latin America, we don't have the actual price of the transaction, so we are using the offer price. So all this technology is based on predicting the offer price. And then there is a negotiation between the buyer and the seller.
Okay. So at the end of the day, and because we've had this conversation in a number of markets before, is that my view is that the AVM model has a true power in helping clear markets, in helping take the noise and the problems often created by real estate agencies themselves. I mean, you want to sell your house, I promise you it's going to go for a lot. I then spend 3 months telling you why it's not going to go for that price. It's less, less, and less, till eventually it clears and I get my commission.
And let me say something. We learned something in the process of launching 3 countries, which was, one thing is Argentina, where we worked in the last 10 years. And then when you think about Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador, we thought that we are not providing this service in all the cities of the 3 countries. We are only providing this service. So the first question is, in which city you want to make the valuation? If we don't have enough data, we cannot help you. So basically that was the first question we are asking.
Okay. Another quick question. How do you organize your IT teams? How do they work together with the business guys, and how many data scientists do you have?
For OLX and Naspers, I think AI is one of the top priorities, so they invite me and part of my team to work together with our OLX guys. And basically, the idea is that you have to have a separate team for machine learning, so a data science, a data engineer, and perhaps 2 more DevOps. So, and that team will work with all the other teams together to solve specific problems. So today they are working in the evaluation tool. Tomorrow they can work with the marketing team. Then they can work with the sales team to have a model to predict a better pricing. So I think if you build a great team of data scientists and data engineers, that team can work across your organization.
Okay, fantastic. Last question. How's Properati doing? And do you have plans to roll out to other LATAM markets?
So basically 1 year ago when we sold the company to OLX Group, we were working in Properati. It was a mortgage broker solution. We launched it in Argentina quite successfully, and then things happen in Argentina every 5 years. So we cannot continue with the business because there was a high inflation, 50% year over year. So now we are trying to move that business into different countries, almost all the countries in the world that don't have inflation. So now we have a challenge of taking Properati out of Argentina to other countries, and we are working on that.
Fantastic. Gabriel, as always, a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming to the conference. Thank you.